It has been an action-packed week in the world of real estate with headlines about one of the top agents sharing his experiences selling $100 million homes. We learned that Marilyn Monroe's former West Hollywood penthouse has gone up for sale again. There's an upside-down super tall building in New York that is in the final stages of planning. And speaking of $100 million homes, Jeff Bezos just dropped big money on a tiny house in Hawaii. In today's video, we are going to dissect all of these headlines, but just a quick introduction in case you're new here. So my name is Scott. I'm a real estate developer myself out of Arizona. So here on my channel, you should expect a good variety of content that's all real estate themed. Think about hitting the subscribe button down below if you're not already a subscriber, because I'm posting new videos every week that you're not going to want to miss. So Marilyn Monroe's West Hollywood penthouse that she lived in back in 1954 is officially for sale again for $2.5 million. Marilyn was married to Joe DiMaggio from the New York Yankees for a year leading up to when she moved into this condo, but sadly they split up, so she moved into this place on her own. Joe and Marilyn's story is pretty fascinating by itself. I'm sure, as you could imagine, one of the best baseball players of all time mixed with one of the best actresses of all time could lead to a pretty wild relationship. I guess they got married last minute and then they ran off to Japan for their honeymoon, but even their honeymoon got a little rocky because Marilyn had to leave early to go do a performance in Korea. They say that Joe was a bit of a jealous guy who wanted to settle down and spend more time at home, and Marilyn was a budding performer who just wanted to focus more on her career. Well, the marriage only lasted 9 months, but they did stay in touch, and Joe stayed committed to Marilyn until she sadly passed away in 1962. Back to the apartment though. This place is in a community called the Granville Towers off of Crescent Heights and Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood, which was probably a great place for single Marilyn to live because it's walkable to a bunch of bars and restaurants. Her penthouse apartment was actually pretty big at 2,032 square feet, but it only had 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. If you look at the listing on Realtor.com, you'll see there's currently 4 properties available for sale in the Granville Towers, with the lowest one priced at $895,000, and then the most expensive being Marilyn Monroe's old unit for $2.5 million. As you flip through the photos on the listing though, you'll see this place has a ton of windows and natural light. It has really cool architecture from the outside, but otherwise it's just like a regular looking apartment when you look at all the main living areas, or you look at the kitchen, or the dining room, or the other spaces. The bedroom definitely has the coolest and nicest looking room in the apartment because it has these big windows with awesome views. If you look at the price history on this condo, it has had a lot of activity over the years, but the farthest that it goes back is in 1990 when it sold for just $400,000. Then the most recent recorded sale price was in January of 2003 whenever the current owners bought the place for $860,000. So if they get their $2.5 million asking price, they're gonna walk away with a good profit. Now the next headline might make you a bit sick because Dezeen reported that an architectural firm out of New York called Adjaye Associates has designed a super tall skyscraper that appears to be upside down. We talked about the building and safety concerns of these super tall skyscrapers in a video last week, but this one brings even more concerns to light at first glance. So the company is calling this place the Affirmation Tower, and they plan to build it at 418 11th Avenue in Manhattan. You can see on the Google Street View that there is a ton of new building activity in basically every direction from the site, so I'm sure everyone will be happy to see this lot finally developed. This site actually had something called a request for proposals issued by the state of New York in early 2021, which is basically just New York saying that they want someone to build out this site ASAP. I looked through all the RFP documents that are available on newyork.gov, and it looks like New York has already outlined all of the building and zoning and utilities and transportation requirements of the site here. So that's pretty cool because it'll make it to where the developer should, in theory, be able to get their project approved a bit faster as long as they follow these rules. Going back to the building itself though, this place is proposed to be 1,663 feet tall, which does make it fall into the super tall category. It has a super unique looking design, and it literally looks like a normal skyscraper turned upside down. Apparently they're using a series of cantilevers to pull this off, and I'm sure it's going to get engineered the right way, but it still looks a little bit sketchy and top heavy to me. The company who's building this tower is called Adjaye Associates, and it's led by a guy named Sir David Adjaye. He's a Ghanaian British architect with a ton of experience and a ton of awards. If you look at all of David's work on his website, you'll see that building unique looking commercial structures is what he is all about, so this upside down tower in Manhattan will be a great addition to his portfolio. Another cool part about this project that Dezeen shared is that this will actually be the first team of all black architects, lenders, builders, and developers ever in New York history, which just means that the completion of this project will mark a really awesome milestone for New York real estate development. Next on our list, Forbes shared with us that we have agent Gary Gold, who's going to give us some advice on how to sell a $100 million property. We've talked about these super luxury spec homes on my channel a lot, and a few months ago, we even went out to Bel Air to tour one of the most expensive houses on the planet. So because of that, I figured I had to throw this article into today's update. Gary has a really impressive resume, having started selling real estate in 1981, and he has worked tirelessly to get himself up to the point where he's selling these big estates. One of his most notable sales is when he sold the Playboy Mansion in 2016 for a record-setting $100 million, which was the highest price for an LA home in history. Gary went on to sell the Hearst estate in Beverly Hills for $63 million, and if you look at his website, you'll see that basically every home that he has for sale or has recently sold has gone for tens of millions of dollars or more, so he's definitely no stranger to the luxury market in California. Anyways, back to the Forbes article where Gary shares some bits of advice and perspective, and the first one is where he says, no matter how wealthy you are, nobody wants to feel played. Everybody wants to think that they made a good deal no matter what they paid. There must be demand to get a premium price. So that kind of should go without saying, but that just tells us that these buyers who have net worths of $100 million or more, who in theory should have an unlimited budget, even if they spend frivolously on things like cars and jewelry and clothing, they still want to make sure that they got a good deal on their home. Another thing that Gary shares is that when he gets a luxury listing, he already has a good idea who the buyer is going to be. See, Gary has a network of buyers and agents and high net worth individuals all over the world, so he knows who to call when the time is right. The potential buyers for homes like this, he has already vetted via income and asset statements, so he knows if they show interest, that means they mean business. It's a fascinating place that Gary has found himself in as an agent, and by the sounds of things, he's going to be taking on these high-end listings for the rest of his career. By the way, if you're wondering how much commission somebody makes on a $100 million deal, it's about $2.5 million. All right, so we all know that Jeff Bezos has been on a real estate buying spree for a while. He's been buying properties all over the country, including New York, Washington, California, and Texas. One of the biggest headlines that he has made lately is when he bought that $165 million property in Beverly Hills back in 2020. But now Jeff has his sights set on the island of Maui because he just dropped a whopping $78 million for a 14-acre oceanfront ranch in this place called La Perouse Bay, which is on the southern tip of Maui, even farther south than Wailea. If you've never been to the island of Maui before, I highly recommend it, but to give you a lay of the land, it's broken up into 4 main cities on the north, south, east, and west corners of the island. The northern side of the island has the city of Paia, the southern side of the island has Wailea, the eastern side of the island has the city of Hana, and then the western side of the island has the city of Lahaina. This whole island is pretty small and it's really easy to get around, but where Jeff picked out his estate is definitely one of the more private and secluded areas. You can tell that his ranch is basically the only green around, and the houses are set super far away from the street, so he has complete privacy in case anybody is driving by and trying to get a glimpse. The compound was called the Carter Estate, and it has 2 homes on the site, with the first primary home being 4,500 square feet, and then the guest house being about 1,700 square feet. Let's do some math really quick because I'm a real estate investor myself, so I'm just curious to know what he paid price per square foot for these houses. So we'll take $78 million, which is what he paid for the place, and we'll divide that by the total square footage, which is about 6,200 feet, and voila. Jeff paid a whopping $12,580 per square foot for this house. Considering the median price per square foot for a home in the United States is $123 per square foot, that is bonkers. And yes, obviously we can't compare an oceanfront Maui estate to the average home in America, but you get my point. Anywho, hats off to the Post and Ethan Kwan for grabbing a couple of drone shots of the property. You can see both the structures, the private beach, and there's even a little swimming pool there too. Public records show that this property was last sold for only $4.2 million back in 1998. So that means that these owners selling their house to Jeff Bezos for $78 million, They basically just hit the lotto. There were some serious gems in this week's headlines, and I tried to pick the best for this week's episode, but if I had to pick my favorite out of all of these, I think that goes to the upside-down building that's going to be built in New York. I'm really looking forward to the progression of this story and diving deeper into the plans and the engineering that they're going to have to do to pull this off. As long as this project actually gets approved and comes to fruition, I'll definitely be doing a follow-up video here on my channel. If you enjoyed the video today, guys, if you could hit the thumbs up button down below, I'd really appreciate it. And let me know down in the comments below what your favorite headline was of the week, or if you heard any other crazy real estate news that we didn't talk about today. That's a wrap for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.